Good. So we'll go ahead and we'll get started. So like I said, we're going to be going over opportunities. Now it's incredibly important because we're all submitting our transactions through opportunities. So it's good to have at least a working knowledge of it. And there's probably a lot of things in there that it can do that you may not have seen or may not have been told about yet. So we're going to go over all the fun features of opportunities, and we're going to go through as if we had an offer that we were going to write. We're going to work with buyers. We're going to move them directly through that sales pipeline. So you can see exactly how it works and how it can benefit that. So I will go ahead and share my screen here. Bear with me just a moment. And again, I apologize. I do not have a Kahoot game for you at the end. Was not able to meet the cutoff here. So as you can see, we are going to start off in command, and we're going to pick up basically right where Donna left off with the contact. Once you create the contact, if you have a transaction or if you're working with them in any capacity where you want to track exactly where they're at inside of the sales process, you're going to create an opportunity and you're going to put that contact in there. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the big red KW in the upper left-hand corner to expand all the apps on the side. Makes it a lot easier to see exactly where you're going to, especially if you're not too familiar with it. It'll give you the names right here. So we're going to choose opportunities. And you can see that opens up our opportunities area here. Now, this is going to look different based on whether or not you're part of a team or if you're a single agent. As you can see along the top, I've got the Andrew Hicks team, which is the best team in the area. Then I have Andrew Hicks, the single agent. I can view all of my opportunities or all of my discussions within the team. So for the sake of this training, we're going to stick with just the single agent, but if we do come to a point where there's a team impact involved, I'll let you know and I'll show you those options there as well. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to go ahead and choose me as a single agent. If you're a single agent, ignore this team part here altogether. You do not have to worry about it. So the first thing that we see whenever we enter our opportunities is we have two sales pipelines here. We've got listings and we have buyers. Now you'll notice that they are exactly the same. They're just mirrored one after the other here. And for those of you that work with leases, if we scroll down even further, we have our leases sales pipeline, which is going to show a little bit different than our buyer and seller. As you can see, we have this pending area here. So for the sake of this training, we're going to be working with buyers, but everything that we go over here is going to be the same for whether you're listing or if you're leasing as well. Now, the first thing I do want to point out are the stages inside of here. So you can see we've got different stages for our opportunities or our transactions to go through. We've got our cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. And does anybody here know where we got those labels for each of those stages, or excuse me, phases? Should be familiar to most of you. It's the MREA. So these are the stages, or excuse me, the phases for each client inside of any sort of transaction here. Now, over to the right, you can see we have our GCI, which is our gross commission income. This number here, the potential income, going to show us our total commission that we can expect to receive if every single one of our opportunities makes it from cultivate all the way to closed. So if all four of these deals go from cultivate to closed, that's how much I can expect to receive in commission income. Now, below that, we have the probable income, and that's going to be based around the same sort of thing with one difference. The closer any of these opportunities get to the closed area, the higher that probable income is going to become. So as they move through the sales pipeline, they're going to come closer and closer to matching that potential income here. So this is based on where the opportunities are at inside of the sales pipeline. And when we say opportunities, really what opportunities boil down to, each and every one of the opportunities is just a container for all of your transaction information for that client or for that transaction. So you're going to have your documents, your commissions, all the information about the house, the information about the clients. It's just one nice little container for all of that information to sit in. That way you can reference it at any time. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start off by creating an opportunity. And I see things are coming up in the chat here. I've only got one screen today, so I can't see the chat. So I'm just going to do a quick check on there. And before I move forward, I'm going to ask, are there any questions on anything that we've gone over so far? So far, really all we've done is opened up the opportunities window, explain the different phases that show up on here, and what these GCI numbers over here mean. All right, is there a team advanced training session on all command? So your MCTT can definitely help you out and train you on all of the, yep, Brett got it for me. There we go. And Ryan's got the email. All right. So they've got chat under control, so I won't even worry about checking it. We've got some of the best people in the region on that. So that is awesome. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and pick up from where we left off there. We're going to create the opportunity. So if I hit this big blue create opportunity button here in the upper right, it's going to give me a nice little form to fill out about the transaction. Now, we'll go ahead and start from the top and we'll move down. So you'll choose your market center. If you're a part of multiple ones, you'll have multiple options on here. If not, should be pretty easy. Team, if you are going to create this opportunity and you're on a team and it needs to go to your team sales pipeline so they can help you out with it and monitor it, you would select the team right here. However, since we are not part of a team right now, we're going to hit the little X and it's going to be a personal opportunity instead. Now, the next part is the opportunity type. Now, from here, this is where we're going to choose whether it's a listing, a buyer, a landlord, or a tenant. So we want to make sure that we choose the correct opportunity type, because once we create the opportunity, we are not able to change that. And just to kind of drive that point home and make sure that everybody's listening, this is a very important part of this. It will save you a ton of time if you fill this out correctly the first time. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Anything inside of the opportunity can be changed after you've created it, except for these 4 things at the top. So you'll want to make sure that you take extra care when you fill this part out, because we won't be able to change this after we create the opportunity. Anything else we can change completely. Just these 4 things here, we're not able to change after the fact. So like I mentioned, we're working with a buyer today. So I'm going to select buyer. And the next part, owner, we don't have to worry about that unless we're on a team. And even then it should autofill with the correct rainmaker. The next part is the client. And this is very important as well. In order to add your contact into here to start the opportunity, that client or that contact has to be inside of your database. If you don't enter in that contact, you will not be able to find them inside of this list. So for instance, if I click in here, and let's say if I wanted to see if I could find, let's say I'm starting a transaction for Gandalf. I have not added him to my contacts list, so he's not going to show up in there. However, luckily today we are working with Bob blah blah. And you can see as I start typing his name, he auto appears right there, and I can click on him. And that adds that contact to this opportunity. So it's very important that you add the contact in first, otherwise they won't show up on there. Now, one of the really cool things is that since Bob blah blah, I added his spouse in there and connected them through the opportunities area when I created them. So you can see that it shows up with his wife, Bar blah blah. So sorry, Bar blah blah. So shows up with his wife there. If we wanted to add a different co-buyer, they would have to be added as a contact first. And then we would be able to select them from here. So let's see. There we go. So if I needed to, I could say Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to be buying a house with blah, blah, blah. However, we're going to be using his spouse, which is Bar blah, blah. Now, before I go any further, since this is such an important piece, are there any questions on anything that we've entered in so far? The opportunity type, the clients, market center, team, anything like that? And somebody asked, what if there are 3 buyers? If there are multiple buyers, we're going to be adding those people into the transaction inside of our e-signature platform. So whether it's .loop, DocuSign, Transaction Desk, any other third-party e-signature platform, that's where you would add in the other people that are a part of the transaction. Within Command at this current time, we only have room for 2 people. So you'd put in 2 people there. Then once you get to the e-signature side, you would add that contact in there and add their signatures in. That is a good question. So any other questions on the information that we filled out here? All right, very good. I must be explaining it well then. And again, feel free to reach out, interrupt me, just start talking or put it in the chat. Happy to help answer any questions. Now, the next part are custom tags. I'm sorry, got a little bit ahead of myself. We're going to work on the opportunity name next. So for the opportunity name, what we always recommend is to put in the full address of the home that they're either buying or selling or renting. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to find it if you're looking through all your different transactions. It's also going to make it a lot easier for your MCAs and for your transaction protection team to find it if you have a problem or any questions on it. So since we're working with a buyer, at this point, we don't know what the address is because we haven't even started looking for a home. So my recommendation and what I see a lot of agents do is to put in what they're looking for as well as their budget inside of the opportunity name, because we can always change this name later on to reflect the address of the property that they're looking to purchase later on once we find that information out. So let's say that they're looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home that is, let's say 750 is their budget. So that way, when I'm looking through my opportunities, I can see at a glance exactly what it is that they're looking for and what their budget is. So if I have a whole lot of buyers that are looking for homes at a certain time, if I hear about something, I can just scroll through all my opportunities and find the exact match on there. Now, the next part are the custom tags. Now, the custom tags are going to be separate from the contact tag you learned about a little while ago with Donna. So the contact tags are things about that specific person. The custom tags within your opportunities are going to be custom tags about the specific transaction or about the property itself. So let's say that they're looking for something with a pool. So if they're looking for something with a pool, I'm going to say they're going to be looking for, that didn't work there. They're looking for a dinosaur-shaped swimming pool is one of their must-haves for this property. So I'm going to tag it with that. Now, if they're looking for a house that is near the water, you can put in near water. And this is really going to be helpful if you're looking at a glance at all of your clients and what they're looking for from this opportunities area to see exactly what they're looking for and what they need so you can match up potential homes for them. So again, these are only for the opportunities. These tags do not go to the contact at all. They stay with that opportunity. And if you're working with a listing, it's a good idea to put in the same kind of thing, attributes of the property that are memorable that you can remember, because later on down the road, if you need to go and pull a document from that transaction, you're going to remember that there is a dinosaur-shaped swimming pool a lot easier than it is to remember the exact address of that property, and it makes it a little bit easier for you to find it. So for now, our custom tags, Bob and Bar blah blah are looking for a home that is 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms within the $750,000 range. And they're looking for a home that must have a dinosaur-shaped swimming pool and is near the water. Now, the next part is the estimated close date, and it's just that. It's just an estimate. You don't even need to fill this in. However, I always recommend doing that. That way you can forecast your business a little bit more. So if Bob and Barb say that they're looking to buy within the next couple of months, let's say they're looking to close by the end of August. So I'll put that on there. And again, this can be changed at any point in time. This is not set in stone for them. So we'll say the time frame, we'll say within 3 months. Again, this is not required. You can fill it in or not. I always recommend doing so though, because it can help you with your forecasting. Their budget is $750,000. The commission rate, let's say we're getting 2.5% from it. And this is just an estimate. Again, you can come back and change anything at all within this opportunity after you've created it. The only things that you cannot, like I mentioned, are the 4 at the very top. So you'll want to make sure you get these correct. Everything else, you can go back, change, edit, but it's a good idea to start off with most of the right information there. So the next part here is where we're going to start it off inside of that sales pipeline. So you can see opportunity phase. We can start them off in cultivate, appointment, or active. Now, since we just met with Bob and he just told us some of his real estate needs, we're going to choose cultivate since we're going to start them off at the very beginning. Then we can choose the specific stage within that opportunity as well. Now, we'll go into this in just a moment once we actually create the opportunity. So for now, we're going to put this as watch. Now, are there any questions before we go forward and create this opportunity about the information we added into here? Any clarification anybody needs on any of the information we added on here so far? All right, very good. So, oh, somebody raised their hand. Palm Beach East Trading Room. Go ahead and ask your question. What do we got?
Okay, so the question is, once you've created an opportunity, if you have not filled in all the information below that was first few fields, how do you go back in and edit in this frame, or do you have how do you basically go back in and edit for these other things like the tags and whatnot?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways you can access it to edit it. So what we'll do just to show you, and this is actually the next step, so I'm glad you asked. If I hit create here, it brings me into the opportunity details. And this is going to show us all that information we just put in, and it's going to allow us to add additional details here as well. So let's say if we needed to go back and edit that information, I'm going to go back to the main opportunities page, that sales pipeline. You can see we've got that one under cultivate. That's where we started the opportunity off at. So if I click on here, we've got our opportunity card right here. It's got the estimated it's got the GCI showing up on there, all the information we added in for it. If I wanted to change the information, I could just click on the opportunity itself and hit this nice little pencil button here for general information, and that's where I can edit everything. And does that help answer your question there? All right, very good. So if I hit this pencil, I can edit the information. I do want to go over a little bit of information here once we're actually inside of the opportunity though. So you can see right now we're under the details tab of the opportunity. You can see this is where we've got our general information, where we can put in the property address, and we can also add a description. Now we'll go through and we'll edit this general information in just a couple of moments here, but a few options that we have within the opportunity itself is we have the buyer profile. Now this is only going to have any sort of content if that contact is connected with your consumer mobile app. So if they downloaded the consumer mobile app, I would be able to see his the buying or selling guide that we had created that would show up there. I'd be able to see which he's checked off, and I can also check off steps for him. So if I check off a step saying that they've gone through and gotten pre-approved, it's going to register on their mobile device, and they're going to be able to look at their selling guide and see, their buying guide and see exactly where they are inside of that buying process. Now, typically we go a little bit more in detail into that whenever we go to designs or the consumer area, but we can provide some resources and materials on setting that up as well. Now, the other one is the documents area, which we'll get into a little bit later, but this is where all of your documents for the transaction are going to live at. So you'll be able to see all of your documents here that you've submitted for your transaction protection team to double check. This is where you can also add any offers if you have a listing, and you can also create your commission request and submit it to your market center directly through here. You can also add any notes on the transaction as well that you'd like to need to remember. And then the timeline, which gives you a step-by-step recount of everything that's been done to the opportunity. So you can see, created it at 11:20 a.m. So I'm going to go back to my details tab here. Now, are there any questions on any of these buttons that I clicked on up here, any of these separate areas of the opportunity? Oh, so somebody asked if it's the Kelly app. So it is not the Kelly app. It is the KW Consumer Mobile app. So if they download your branded app, there's an option on there for guide. If they click on that, it's going to give them a buyer guide or a seller guide. If they're connected to your mobile app and their contacts in here, if they check off the first step on there, you're going to be able to see exactly which step they checked off, or you can check steps off for them as well. So if they have a question about something that requires a detailed in-depth answer, you can refer them to their guide, and it'll give them all the information on there. You can even customize it. It's a really cool tool once you get it set up there. All right. And so what we'll do now, let's go ahead and jump back into our opportunities here to kind of show you how to move it through that sales pipeline and a little bit more organization outside of it. Then we'll come back inside of here and go over and edit the information and show you the documents area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to our sales pipeline by clicking on opportunities on the left-hand side. Now, as you can see, we've got our opportunity in Cultivate currently. If I click back into Cultivate, you'll notice we have several different steps within here. So you can see we've got it set to watch, we've got it nurture, and we also have hot. So if I'm just watching Bob, let's say that I got him as a lead, talked to him a little bit. He said what he's looking for, said he's not really interested in looking or worrying about it too much right now. We're going to put him on watch. We can come back and call him back later and see if he's got anything else for us later on. But let's say that he starts contacting us about wanting to purchase a home. We can move him into nurture. So we're going to start nurturing that contact, that lead. And then once he's actually really starting to want to purchase a home, we can just drag him and drop him right over to hot. Now, you'll notice there's different percentages on each one here, and that's going to correlate to that probable GCI number that we saw at the beginning. So as you can see, if I start him at watch, this probable area is going to be 5% of the total GCI that shows up for this transaction here. If I move him to nurture, you'll notice it goes up to 7%, and that number reflects down there. If he's hot, move him over there, it's going to go to 10% of that GCI. Now, are there any questions on moving that opportunity between these different stages here? Because the next thing we're going to do is talk about creating your own custom stages for your opportunities and your sales pipeline based on how it is that you work with your clients. All right, very good. So let's say if we don't like using these exact stages and we've got something within here, let's say if we've got a lot of clients that are wanting to buy, but their credit's just not there yet. So it'd be nice if we had a spot inside of here to reflect that, so we can park our opportunities in that area where they need to, where we need to follow up with them about their credit. And somebody asked if we can move them to the next stage. We definitely can, and we'll do that next, but you just drag, you can drop it right on there. So if I wanted to create a stage in here or remove one or edit the stages, all I have to do is click on edit stage here in the upper right. And you'll notice we've got that watch, nurture, or hot. We've got those percentages for the probability of that deal closing. We've also got client updates and checklists, which is what we're going to go over next, which are super, super cool. So I'm going to use the air horn again once we get to that point. But if I wanted to add a new stage in here, let's say between watch, or let's say between nurture and hot, if we wanted to move all of our clients whose credit is just not quite there yet, if I click on add stage here in the upper right, let's call this one credit counseling. And we'll say the probability, what was it? I believe it was between 7 and 10%. So we'll say that's 8% here. And we're going to put it in the third position, which just means we had 3 stages inside of that pipeline before. Now we're going to add another one. So we're going to put it in 3 of 4. So I'll hit save. And you can see we now have that stage for credit counseling. Now, if we wanted to move that somewhere else, we could just drag it and drop it wherever we'd like it. All right, I thought I heard somebody talking. Anybody? Are there any questions on creating that stage or anything that we've done so far? All right, so we will go ahead and move on here. So I'm going to go back to my buyers, cultivate. Anytime you want to go back to the previous screen that you were at when you're in the opportunities, there's always going to be this blue-green text here in the upper left. So if you click on that, that'll bring us right there. And now you can see we have our credit counseling stage. And if I scroll over to the right, we've got that hot stage. So if Bob and Kathy, let's say that their credit's just not quite where it needs to be for what they're looking for, we're going to drag them into credit counseling, and then we'll keep following up with them as we need to. Now, just as a quick recap of what we've gone over so far. So far, we created the opportunity. We went over the sales pipeline. We went over the GCI that shows up on the right-hand side, opening up the opportunity. And now we've gone over creating a stage within your sales pipeline, and how to customize those and how to drag these around and move them around to the different stages. Now, are there any questions on what we've gone over so far?
Somebody was asking something. I don't know if you want me to tell you or.
Oh, let me take a look here.
No.
Yep. Oh, so somebody's asking about the 5, 7, and 10%. So if we go back to our opportunities here, oh, not campaigns, we're doing opportunities. So you'll notice here that potential income, this is going to be based on this number is going to be based on if every single opportunity we have inside of that pipeline, inside of this buyer pipeline here, if they all make it to close, that's how much we can expect to receive. This probable income is based on exactly where they are inside of the sales process. So that 1 through 10% that was here in Cultivate. So as I move it along there, it's going to increase that percentage, that probability that the deal closes. So it's going to reflect on this probable income area over here. So if I move my opportunity from Cultivate to Active, this is going to go way, way up. And just to kind of show you, I'm going to jump back into my Cultivate stage here, or I'm sorry, phase. And you'll notice we set this one to, whoop, I set that to 88% on accident. That was my bad. Better example here. So you'll notice since it's inside of the watch area and that's 5%, that probable income is 937. Now, if I drag this to the next one, which is nurture, and it says 7%, that's now going to reflect 7% of that total estimated commission. Then if I move it over to the next one, which by accident was 88%, we can see what it would be like for 88% of the GCI there. Now, are there any questions on anything that we've gone over there? All right, very good. So the next part, you may have noticed on each of these, whenever I drag them through, we have this little checklist button. It says 0 of 0. That's because I have not created any checklist items yet for this opportunity. Now, I do want to spend a little bit of time on this because I really think that it's important and it can really benefit you, and especially if you have a team. So just make sure everyone's up and around and listening. So the checklist items for these opportunities are extremely useful. So let's say if I had a couple of things I always wanted to do for the clients that I'm currently nurturing or the opportunities I'm nurturing, I can make a checklist for those within that opportunity. So you can see here, if I click right on my opportunity, I don't have any checklist for this stage. So I can create one by hitting this edit stages area. Now, when you're nurturing a client, is there anything specifically that you do for each client or contact that you're nurturing currently? That's for anybody to answer.
Give them the utilities for the property.
What's that?
Utility information for the property. Everybody
knows it. Yeah, so we can add that at one in the future. This is before we even start showing up property.
Oh, stages. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Smart plans, very good. Yep. So smart plans. So if we wanted to add them to a smart plan, let's say for all of our buyers, we want to put them on a monthly neighborhood nurture or a bi-weekly one. That way they can start getting some ideas of prices in the areas they want to look at. So let's say we want to make a checklist item. So every time we drag an opportunity to nurture, we can have an item for us to check off saying that we put them on a neighborhood nurture. So to do that, if I hit this nice little pencil button here, the universal command sign for edit, sorry about that, wrong button, we're going to click on the 0 of 0 items for the checklist. And this is where we can add an item. So I'm going to click on add item. Let's say added to monthly neighborhood nurture. And I'm going to hit save. I can add another item here. So what is something else we would do for a client that we're currently nurturing? So we've got a lead. We know that they're going to buy at some point. How do we nurture that lead? Is there anything anybody does specifically? Let's see, how about, oh, looks like we got one. Send personal note. Very good. Qualified with Leonard. Very good. So yeah, let's go ahead and add send a personal note. Send personal note to client. So we'll hit save. So what that does, I'm going to go ahead and save these checklist items here. Now, if I go back to my area here, you can see as I drag my opportunity from watch to cultivate, you're going to see those little numbers down in the bottom right. It now says 0 of 2. So I've done 0 of 2 checklist items. If I go in there and say, oh, I need to check off these items here, I can click on that and you can see I can check off added to monthly neighborhood nurture. I could check off send personal note and I can hit close. So now we've got both checklist items completed. Now, this is especially helpful if you have a team and if you have multiple people working on transactions, let's say a transaction coordinator, an admin, you've got a VA following up with them. It's really helpful to have those checklists in there. That way, at any point in time, if somebody is out sick or if somebody's not there anymore, you know exactly where that opportunity is in that transaction process, what's been done, what hasn't been done based on the systems that you use. Now, another really cool trick, and I'm going to kind of pick up the pace a little bit because I know I don't have too much more time. Another really great thing that you can do is if your opportunity is in a later part of the stage where you need to check in with your client about specific items that have been done, you can make it do that for you. So for instance, if I create a checklist item, and I'm just going to add it on here for simplicity's sake, let's say we need to, let's say, received lender approval. So if we went to, or let's see. So let's say if the inspection was completed for the transaction, we could have a checklist item here that says inspection completed, and we can check this client update box. Now, if a checklist item has client update selected, what it's going to do is as soon as you check off that checklist item, you'll be able to have it send out a branded, nice formatted email saying exactly what's been done. And it doesn't send out immediately. I'm sorry. What it does is it will send it out at a predetermined time. So if you choose to have it send out an email in the morning about everything that was done beforehand, it'll send out that email, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Let me hit save on that. So now that we have our client update selected, I'll hit save. So if I come in here and let's say, oops, sorry about that. I don't think I saved it correctly. Bear with me here just a moment. Sorry about that. That is saved. So we'll go back to cultivate. Let me just go ahead and do a quick refresh here. It should be showing up on here. Very sorry about that, everybody. Save that and refresh. Looks like it's not wanting to take for me here. So let me go back to my cultivate stage. Maybe I'll show you that on another spot here, but let me go ahead and just move that over to, and to answer your question from previously, yes, you can move them directly from here to whichever stage you need to. So we can go from cultivate to appointment, just drag and drop it. Then we can click on appointment from here. We can go from scheduling. Then once we schedule the appointment, and then once they keep the appointment, we can move them to active or under contract if we need to, which I'm going to go ahead and add mine to under contract here. Now, I'm going to add a checklist item here just to show you that client update. So we do edit stages. And I'm going to add that checklist item. So we'll just say escrow confirmed as a client update. Going to save it. And now you can see we have that checklist for, and we have the little item for contact client update. Another cool thing we can do if we're on a team, we can set a due date for somebody on our team. We can set a task for somebody to complete a specific checklist item. So it shows up in their task list. We can give them a deadline for it. So if I choose escrow confirmed, if I hit that little button, which I'm not going to, what it's going to do is it will actually, I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and select that. It's going to send out a formatted email to the client at a specific time, letting them know, giving them a nice little list of all the items that have been completed in that time. So just to show you what that email looks like, I'll give you a little preview here. Go to settings here. Go to my command settings, client update. Now, this is what the email is going to look like. I hit preview. We don't have the option to customize it quite yet. But this is what it's going to look like. You're going to have your team logo. I'm not sure why it's a boat on mine. I'm not going to ask any questions about that, but it's going to give them a list of the checklist items that were checked off. So if you have client update, you want to make sure it's something that you can have as a client facing. And you can see it gives us the first image on the MLS of the property, the address. It says we're checking things off the list. Here's a summary of tasks completed for, shows the address, and then it shows them exactly which client or which checklist items you checked off. So if it was, inspection completed, any sort of items here, it will send a notification to your client. And we have a cat here, not sure why, but this is what that formatted email is going to look like. Now I'm going to go ahead and close out of the preview. And this is where you can set the specific time that those update emails go out. So if we checked 5 different items overnight, we can have it send an email at 10:30 in the morning, going to the client about exactly what items were completed overnight. So it's a quick way to keep in touch with your client about a transaction that's going on without sending 100 emails. You can have Command do some of that work for you. So I'm going to hit save changes on there. Now, before I go any further, I know we got a little bit disjointed on that part. But basically for those checklist items, you can create checklist items for yourself and your team to make sure you check off each one as the transaction goes on. You can also create those checklist items to send out a short reminder email or a short email to your client about exactly what was done overnight or during the daytime there. And let's see. All right. And you do not have to do it. You absolutely do not have to use those. If you do want to take advantage of some of the offerings that Opportunities has, you can do a lot with it. You can have it update your clients, keep people informed of your team, even hold yourself to your own system. So if you want to make sure you do something for each client once they hit that specific phase and stage, you can do that and you can help keep yourself held accountable for it. So as I mentioned, we are running out of time here, so I'm going to wrap this up real quick. So if we go to our under contract, which is where we left our blah, 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 and bar, blah, blah. So let's say we got to this point, we know exactly which home they're going to be buying. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that opportunity to open up those details. I want to make sure to change my opportunity name and put the property address in. So I'm going to hit the little pencil, the universal sign for edit within Command. And we can change that opportunity name right here. So let's say they're actually going to be buying 142 Carlisle Drive. Capitalize that. 4683. So now we have the address and the opportunity name, which makes it a lot easier to find. You can see we can add more custom tags or remove those. You'll notice as well that we're not able to change the market center, team, deal owner, or the type of opportunity that it is. That's why it's so important to make sure you get that information correct the first time there. From here, you can even change the phase and stage that it's currently in. I find it a lot easier to drag and drop. Just seems a little bit more satisfying. You can change that time frame, the estimated close date, and then you can add some important information here. The date that the appointment was scheduled with the client, the date the appointment was supposed to happen, the date that you won the agreement with them, the contract date, and the close date, which I always recommend going through and filling out, even if it's after the fact. That way you can track your information. You can see all that information inside of your reports area. You can change that budget, commission rate, the finance type, and we can edit that information from there. Now, it's also extremely important to fill this information out as you get it, because it's going to populate on your goals and inside of your reports in Command. So if you fill this out diligently, you put in all the information you need to for each transaction, you're going to be able to track a lot of information. So let's say if you put in every single lead that you get as an opportunity and you follow up with them and put them through the sales pipeline and fill in the relevant dates, you're going to be able to get an accurate accounting of your conversion rates for every contact. So you can say, out of every 20 leads that I get, one of them becomes a transaction. So you'll be able to find those exact conversion rates of exactly where they stop being a lead and they decide not to do business, or they become a lead and they start to do business. That way you can recognize areas of opportunities for yourself, so you can increase your conversion rate from actually going on appointments to closing the deal. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And it looks like we got something in the chat here. And so it looks like I've got a couple of questions here. How do you assign members of your team to checklist items? So I can send out a resource for you after the fact on that. I'll put it in the chat here once I finish up. It's basically we'd have to be inside of the team side with the team opportunity. Then there's a button for assign if you're on the team, and you just pick somebody on your team as the assignee for it. So we're going to want to add the property address in here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do 142 Carlisle Drive. And I'm going to hit save. So now Command knows that we have a transaction going on. Command knows who's involved in the transaction. It knows the property address. Now all we need to do is tell it exactly what type of property it is. So it knows the address, it just doesn't know what type. So I'm going to go into my documents. And this may vary based on your market center, but we have these split up into the different types of transactions. So now we know it's a residential buyer. We know the documents that are required for it. And then we can start the transaction and go to our DocuSign or our dot loop. And that's where we're going to leave off here. Now they're going to pick it up with DocuSign in just a little bit, but are there any questions on anything that we went over? Just to give you a quick recap, we went over creating the opportunity, moving it through the sales pipeline, editing the opportunity after the fact, editing those stages, adding those checklists, showing that client update email and how it can be useful for you. And yeah, that is about it. Are there any questions on anything we went over there? Let's see, and adding another buyer. So you could add them in as client number 2. That's if you want to, or you can add them in DocuSign as well.